Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to Beyond Your Radio. We welcome in our panelist favorites show, and this will be, the second of 2025, maybe, I think. Tonight, it was the last album you were ever going to hear from that band or that artist. Why? Oh, maybe they were dead. Maybe they broke up. Listen, was it just not selling, maybe? Could be. Nobody had interest but you or me. And it just, they couldn't make a living at it. That's okay. But wait a minute. You better make sure they didn't come back, because that shit happens too. Because I saw lists, down the thing where they said, oh, this was the great last album. That wasn't their last album. They came back and did another one. And then they did another one. And then they did another one.
Didn't Kiss have like 8?
Oh, you had to mention Kiss. Now mention 3.
Like
it's
the Who
forever
and their final
farewell tour of all time. No, anyway, I don't know. This isn't easy as it seems, let me tell you, because a lot of these people, their longevity of career, their last album or albums have sucked. If we did Madonna and someone said, oh, that last record is amazing. What? Well, okay. Convince me. That would be a very contrarian thing to say. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go into the rabbit hole of the usuals. There are the usuals that will pop, right? I agree with immediately, bang, yes, that album is the best album they even had, and it was the last album, right? So that can happen too. Don't get me wrong, but it's few and far between, it seems, and the rest is argumentative to a big degree. But tonight, our panelists will reveal their favorite last albums ever.
Ooh.
I needed Ray. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
All right. So let's introduce the panel, all right? Her last name, well, we acronym it just to save time. Damn!
That's me.
Hicks Maloney. We went to the last whiskey bar. Time after time after time. One wild Canadian night in Toronto. The Grateful Dude. It ended well, actually. I kind of...
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. No, you didn't? Oh, okay. You were in another room then. I didn't catch it. The first shall be last, and the last shall be, well, last. Jeff Young. No? All right.
He's frozen. There's a glitch.
How is everybody?
We're great. We're great.
Yes? All right.
Yeah.
We will, we're going to, since the last shall be first, we're going to start with Jeff Young, since I horribly crippled his mind and his soul, his heart.
And his self-esteem.
Yes.
Well, you did that years ago.
When you became friends.
You're number 5.
I'm going to go with number 13 by Black Sabbath from 2013.
Mm.
Their 19th album, first album in 13 years. And man, am I glad that didn't suck.
It was a great
It wasn't
album.
even close to suck. You know what I mean? There's
Such a relief
on
when I
there
heard
that
the
sucks.
first song and to the beginning. I was like, oh my God, okay, it actually sounds like Black Sabbath. And it was actually good. But actually the drummer, Brad Wilk of Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave, was on the album. Bill Ward declined not to participate due to some kind of contractual and conflict, I guess. But anyway, is it Black Sabbath's best album? No, certainly not their worst. They got so much good stuff, but it was right in line with what you would want from Black Sabbath. I mean, the things that's different, even though they're playing in their older style from the earlier days with Ozzy and Tony Iommi and everybody, like, you can tell because it's a different time. Everything they're using to record it is newer. It doesn't have the older, it's a little more polished, but it still has the same, it's still the same music you would expect or would want from them. Right. And so it's just a good album. They had, 2 releases. That God Is Dead, I think, won a Grammy, but for best metal song or whatever. But it's just a good album. Like I said, it's not their best, but it definitely belongs in the family of albums and the works they've been making since the 70s. So it's just really good.
Awesome.
Cool.
I agree. Damn.
Oh,
You're
it's
number
my
5.
turn? Okay. Well, this is a female artist. I have to say 4 of my 5 are because people died. Thanks, Mark, for being this really uplifting program to research and think about for the last few days. But anyway, this was only her second album and her final. And she definitely has the vocals of the type of female artist that I like and the type of music that she does too. I was kind of enjoying at the time. This is the 2006 album Back to Back from Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't really know how great she was. I don't know if it's because we're left with what ifs because she only had 2 albums and we really didn't get to see probably her mature self in writing songs. But this album is basically revolves around her relationship with her ex-boyfriend, who then ended up becoming her husband. So that goes to show you just probably what that relationship was like. No smooth sailing for that young lady. It's all about guilt, grief, infidelity, heartache, trauma. I mean, Mark, right up there with this sad show. So she
I'm gonna get a tissue.
and I think that I'm a little bit infatuated with her as well because of how her story ended and the things that I do in my life now revolving mental health and addiction and that. So I find it sad when I listen to it, but also comforting because I remember hearing it for the first few times and going, I like this chick. So that's my number 5.
Good choice.
How's this show affecting your mental health?
Well,
It's always affecting
I'm
mine.
having a beer.
There you go.
Dead
Hanging
soldier.
out with Mark too much.
Mr. Dude, you're number 5.
My number 5 is the 12th and final album by American singer and songwriter Warren Zevon.
Ah,
Mm.
I have 2 or 3 of his albums in my collection. This is the one I listen to the most.
Is he the
Unfortunately,
Werewolves of London guy?
yes. Yep.
Okay, all right. I needed a frame of reference because I don't have any of his albums. Sorry to interrupt, Chef.
he began shortly after being diagnosed with inoperable pleuromelanoma, a
Oh,
cancer in the lining of the lung.
wow.
And at least 2 weeks before his death on September 7th, 2003.
Yeah.
It was awarded a Grammy for the best contemporary folk album. I never really considered him folk. I considered him light rock more than anything else. But
Soft rock.
soft rock,
Yeah.
like, yeah. But
Oh.
There you go.
and the Disorder in the House was performed by Zevon with Bruce Springsteen.
Oh. Okay.
Yep, it was a really good album.
Yeah.
I listened to it just before we went on again for the 15th time, but it was a really good album. He deserves accolades for this. We'll see, but further up in my pick will bring up a similarity.
Yeah.
But
all right. My number 5. There, I actually had quite a few, but I'll save some for honorable mentions or discussions. And I did not go down. Okay, there are albums in this that are monumental and they are the best. Okay, that you can't argue. And if somebody says one, that's fine, but it's our favorite, right? And these are ones I'll play or that strike me. I don't know. This one at number 5 is a band that uses blues in a very, very, very hard rock delivery. And they have a front man who not only embodied the spirit of the delivery, but his body was all pumping too, and his neck was all cleared up. Holy shit. He was an angry looking dude. All right. And that's Henry Rollins. And this is the Rollins band. And their last album, Nice, which was
I love this.
totally trashed by the critics because it had a horn section and it had backup singers and because it's the blues. And he wanted to, it was still delivered that way. Yeah, there's a naked girl on the cover with money all over it. But this is one of those picks where someone should say, nice. So this is August 21st, 2001. It was a reinvention, so to speak. So you go through all that, and then you don't do another album.
Oh my God. I love that you picked this, Mark.
Instead, you do talk shows or whatever, and I don't know. But as an angry guy he is or whatever, looked and all that and doing all that, he kind of has a different outlook on life and in his politics. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, he's not in the band Dope.
He got sidetracked by that small role in the movie Heat.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. All right, back to Jeff for number 4.
Well, I am going to go with... this album is from 2019. And I know you're going to say it's not their final, but we don't know yet because I'm picking Tool, Fear Inoculum, because since it's been 13 years since their last album, talk to me another 13 years.
Oh, I don't know.
He's putting it down just in case he dies.
Oh, really?
Nothing about this album is reinvented, but it's a more, I think the word I liked the best was refined, from what you've heard from Tool. And it is definitely, they're probably, I don't know if you want to say more mature, they've already been pretty established, but it's an excellent album. I don't think I'd call it their best album, but it's definitely up there. It's really good. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. And Tool's hard to describe, so I won't even try, but it's just a really good album. So chances are, if you like Tool, you've already heard the album. But
yeah, dark, black, progressive rock with doom in it, and
doom is
these lyrics are, I think, they sound almost a little more emotional as opposed to
shocking.
They're not as aggressive as some of the other stuff, like Lateralis and things like that. But
yeah, I want to watch things die from a good safe distance. Yeah, those kind of lyrics are not. I actually think it's their best album. I would say that for me that's the one I play the most from start to finish because it's.
I think I listen to it more now because I've already heard so much of Lateralis, and I would listen to those so much that I think I'd gravitate the one I haven't listened to as much, which is currently Lateralis, even though I've obviously heard it quite a bit. But yeah, I don't know, you just can't go wrong.
I can say Fear Inoculum better than I can Lateralis, so that's why I gravitate to. No, anyway. Deb, you're number 4.
Well, my number 4 is not going to be any surprise to people, whether you have it on your list or not, but everybody knows this album. This band, I can't believe that they only had 3. And this is another band that broke up because somebody died. But really the whole theme of the show is kind of going that way, cancer of the lungs and, all of that. But this is Nirvana, 1993, In Utero. It was an album that, I liked the band anyway, but it really wasn't in the forefront of my music taste. But in 93, I was having my second child. I was home a lot. I had a lot more time to listen to music, and this one felt a little bit more personal for me. Heart-shaped box, All Apologies. Even Cobain, though, said that he didn't think this felt very personal to him. It was more impersonal. He felt more removed from it. And I don't know if that's because of who produced the album. They did say that it was like a little departure from the Nevermind album. It was more complex and abrasive, like
I think
the
he was
earlier
lying.
work. He was what?
I think he was lying about that.
I would kind of
Never
agree with that.
mind. Never
I
mind.
mean, Heart-Shaped Box has exactly that riff that you're looking for. It doesn't have it all throughout, but it,
Mhm.
you know, but
I
yeah,
don't know, but
it's
six
my
times
my favorite
platinum.
record of theirs. It's like
Yeah.
studio album.
And
No
it's
question.
not, and you'll see the ones that I chose, they might be on a list, they're on a list, but they have personal meaning to me too. I didn't just go, boom. I wait for you though, Mark, to give us the most obscure things. So I'm
Well,
glad you do
it
those.
possible, yeah. I did go searching because I went, geez, how are they? And then every time I went, ooh, and I went
Yeah.
and I said, that album sucked. And then I went, oh, that sucked too. And I just, I couldn't find, I had a hard time. Anyway,
Interesting.
we'll get it over to the dude for number 4 for him.
Well, this album is very, very had a lot of meaning for me because I saw this person in concert about 4.5 to 5 months before her death.
Oh.
We're talking about the album's name is Pearl. It's his second and final solo studio and 4th album overall by American singer, and we know and all love her, Janis Joplin. This one was the final album. She was working on 3 other albums at the time of her death, and this is the only one that was recorded like it was. The other ones came out in compilations and other stuff, but it was also the only album recorded with the Full Tilt Boogie Band, who was fabulous on their own. But it hit Billboard 200 because of her death, I think. But it was a really, really great album.
It's definitely on the lists of any list for this kind of thing, where the last album's the best of, which were the greatest final records of all time. She is in the top 10, 20, depending on how the list is put together. It's stupendous. And her voice, I'm not sure if there was 2 forces at work, right? Like you had her, all right, and you had Joe Cocker. I don't think they could be in the same place at the same time because the earth would explode.
I know. Exactly. That's funny.
Between her screaming, him shaking, her shaking, the earth would have separated, the San Andreas fault would have happened, and everyone being in the drink. So that's my opinion.
Seeing her in concert that last time in 1970 was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. She could wail.
Yeah.
She really good.
Yeah.
We're back down to, we're to me. Oh, that's right.
Yes, to you.
Wake up, Mark.
Oh, yeah, wake up. Whoa, hey. All right, so my number 4. So this gentleman had an album that was done during the time of his dying. And it's a very hard listen. It's an emotional listen. And that in itself is what it is. It's not enjoyable by any means. So I didn't take that one. We're fortunate enough is that him and Bob Rock, meaning Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip, did a record together that had been sitting. And Bob Rock finally got the ability to let that album out, and that's Luster Parfait. This is the Gord Downey as a soloist outside of the Hip, slightly, that I remember, that I enjoy, and this was a nice additional piece to the entire catalog. And while you can bawl your eyes out at Introduce Yourself, or the Path album about the Indian culture in Canada and how that was treated, those are all gut wrenching and really well done. This is that record where Downey's in touch with a little bit more than that, and Bob Rock does an amazing job of making sure that that's how it stayed and how it played out. So that's my number
That's cool.
4. I kind of
Love it.
had was thinking about that, and I know there's the last couple that are real bona fide. They'll be shockers to some degree, but that's where I am with that. So Gord Downey's Luster Parfait. Bob Rock gets not in there because I think it's considered Gord Downey and Bob Rock because Bob does most of the playing on it too with Gord. So and produced.
Well, you're on fire, Mark. This is a good one. I'm making notes. Okay, cool.
Now back to Jeff.
I also had In Utero. It's a little more aggressive, abrasive sound than Nevermind. I think I prefer Nevermind, but they're both great albums. And I just remember like they played Rate Me on Saturday Night Live. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, they sang that song in
Yeah,
public forum, whatever." But
yeah,
it's just what's funny is well, not funny, but it's notable that Kurt Cobain died 6 months after the album was released. His original name for the album, he told somebody in an article, was going to be "I Hate Myself, I Want to Die."
Oh,
Now, he also said that in jest because a lot of times during an interview, when someone would ask him how he's doing, that would be his automatic response because he was sick of answering that question.
Oh, but still.
But see, that's people that asked him wrong. They never went up to him and go, "How you doing? How are you doing? What's going on?" All right.
It's my turn.
Damn, it's you.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah, Joey from Friends was alarmed.
Oh, it caught me off guard here. So this album, I didn't really like at first, and when it was released, I was kind of annoyed by it. I think because this was somebody that I could never imagine being in the band other than his original band. And I kind of wished he had just become a teacher or something and didn't go off to ruin my dream of the Beatles are always going to be the Beatles. So this is Double Fantasy from 1980 with Lennon and Ono. Yoko Ono. Oh, she's too much. But anyway.
I agree with that.
It didn't get great critical review when it was released, but the same as maybe the Janis Joplin thing, it did after Lennon's death, only a few months afterwards, maybe, wasn't it? The interesting thing that I read about John Lennon was that, he stopped writing for 5 years, and it was after his son Sean was born, and he just wanted to raise him, and he's starting to get the itch, and he went on a 43-foot schooner between Rhode Island and Bermuda on his trip with, a crew of people, and they hit a terrible storm and everybody on the ship seasick, whatever. And he had to take the helm for like 6 hours. And after that trip, he just reflected on the fragility of life and, I can raise my son and keep giving the world more music. And that was only like 6 months before the album was released, but he had songs that he had already written. It wasn't as though he composed all these and recorded them in that short of a time. But he thought, I've got more to give here and I better do it. And then ironically, look what happened. It's crazy.
Yeah. For those of you that are hearing impaired, there've been too many concerts. It sounded at certain points for me that Deb said that John Lennon was hanging out with Scooter from Dukes of Hazzard, and Levon Helm was on the boat too. I was. All right, Grateful Dude.
I heard you fine,
Okay.
by the way.
No, I was just when I listened to it, I'm going Helm, Levon Helm. What was his last album like?
That's why you never sleep, Mark. That
That's
brain.
okay.
Yoko Ono was great in Kill Bill.
Everything Must Go is the ninth and final studio album by American rock group Steely Dan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They were a very, very tight group.
Mhm.
They're jazz rock jazz, something like that.
Yeah.
I like this album. I don't think it's their best, but it's a good album. It's the critics didn't like it all. They gave it like 3s and 4s and 2s and stuff like that. I liked it. It's not my favorite, but I liked it. And I don't really have too much to say about them because of their breakup and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're that's a hard catalog to, say any bad thing about, because no matter whether you didn't like it or not, that shit was tight.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
tight.
And the jazz fusion market that they were in, they were on radio. Okay. Not too many jazz fusion rock bands got on radio like they did, or get played again and again. And maybe Chicago's in that mix a little bit. But Steely Dan had, and they could go pop and not make it sound like it was really pop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's cool. It was cool.
It was cool, man.
It was cool, man.
I like it. All right. I'm gonna stay in Canada for probably the greatest power trio of all time, bar none. Rush and Clockwork Angels from June 5th of 2012, or no, June 8th, probably the 8th. I don't know why people didn't gravitate to it. I think it's because they just thought there's probably more coming. There hasn't been. It is a ridiculously good album. It's in the midst of everything that they do. There's not a single solitary track where you feel like they're just doing something they used to do. Everything sounds fresh. Everything sounds as well produced as every other album. You've got your progressive epic. You've got your progressive rock. You've got Geddy Lee's vocal challenging on itself, and great bass, great drum, and of course Lifeson doing his usual Pink Floyd, their level, right? And just beyond. I think it's a fantastic record. It's in the Rush catalog. I tend to go and gravitate to it a little bit more than I would the ones that I've heard as much. And I think if people were to have heard that album more and that got more play, and everybody just went with the death of Neil Peart going back and just listening to the old stuff, they kind of realize that this is quintessentially probably one of the best ending albums of a rock band, progressive rock band of all time. So back to Jeff Young.
I'll stick with Canada, and I'll pick a particular band for 2 reasons. First, I think this one is easily unnoticeable. And number 2, if I wait till the end of this year, it might not be their final album. So I picked number 7 by Big Wreck. So it was released in 3 EPs, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. It's listed as number 7 if you just buy it in the store. But it is very good. It was something that they recorded 15 songs during the pandemic and released it in 3 different pieces. They did some really kind of cool things too with their fans, but 7 singles for this album. And like Bombs Away, Fields, Spit It Out, Better Off, Fear and Cowardice, Melody and Sound, and Full Display. And anyway, it was just there's several probably really good albums between rock and pop that kind of are easily forgotten because of the pandemic. except unless you're fans looking for that stuff. Anyway, these are very good songs. And each set, point 1, point 2, point 3 of 5 songs, at least 3 of those 5 are all very good. And you probably like most of them anyway. But if you haven't listened to them, it's a really good music.
Yeah, well, and the idea of if you like Soundgarden, and there's not more of that, they are as close to Soundgarden as you're going to get in vocal.
And they also wanted to release it in pieces because they felt like at that time, and maybe or maybe not, especially because of COVID, but they released them all as one album. They felt like it had less impact for their fans. When you give people 5 songs to listen to, it's much easier to digest. And I want to get the next 5. I want to get the next 5 instead of here's 15
it also
songs
gets
and,
them buying those
whatever.
in session. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a new. I think I talked about this a long time ago in another show about that's another idea of like having multiple EPs that come together, but you don't sell the whole album. You buy all the EPs, right? Sort of like
sell the whole album after it's all out.
Yeah, Stephen King. All right, he did all those little short stories that had to do with the novellas of Green Mile, and then he makes the book, right? Well.
Stand By Me.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
Deb.
All right. Well, this album have all 3 of the musicians are still alive. So this is my non-morbid one. So isn't that nice? Sorry. Well, they're older now, so you never know what could be happening right now. Here's
Fingers
the
crossed.
Let's start a Deadpool.
Deadpool. So it's from 1983, the year that I got married. The Police, Synchronicity.
Yes.
The songs on this album are just timeless to me. King of Pain and Wrapped Around Your Finger, and of course, Every Breath You Take, which is about a stalker, but
112 weeks at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I remember kind of that announcement that they weren't going to be together anymore. And again, that was a thing like the Beatles to Lennon, from the Police to Sting. And I've enjoyed a lot from Sting on his own. And like I said, I don't go to a lot of concerts like you guys do, but when I go, I usually find some really gems, and I got to see him with Tracy Chapman, and it just stellar. So great album, and I'm glad that they continue to be successful on their own.
Yeah, I feel lucky I got to see them in Buffalo as the Police.
Did you really? That's awesome.
They were very, very cool.
At the time of that album, I mean, they were really recognized as, if not the most, one of the most well-known and popular bands in the world.
Yep.
MTV helped them with that too.
I would say definitely that. I mean,
that's one of those. That's a show. Which
Right.
bands wouldn't be here
without MTV? Yeah.
Yeah.
Grateful Dude, your number. What are we at? 2, 3, 3,
Yep.
3, 2,
3,
2. Oh,
2.
2.
2.
This is number 2.
Now, if you would put together Neil Young, Stephen Stills, Richie Furay, Dewey Martin, Bruce Palmer, and Jim Messina, what would you get?
Well, I know that part of it is the area we live in, and then the other parts in Massachusetts.
You get Last Time Around by the third and final album by the Canadian American pop folk rock group
Buffalo Springfield.
I think this album is freaking great. I've listened to it. It's been in my collection for years and years. It's one of the few bands of that year I did not see, because they never played around me, or if they did, I was gone or something else. But they were magnificent. So Pretty Girls, Why, 4 Days Home, 4 Days Done. Steven Stills has always been one of my favorite players, solo or with groups. And he really, really killed this album. He really killed it. And Jim Messina, I think he played in Poco.
Yep.
But was a great guy. Neil Young, we all know him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's it.
All right. It's a good choice. I kind of forgot about that. I only have like a box set anthology or something. I can't remember. It's like 3 or 4 CDs.
I have the box set.
Yeah. I gotta get the albums. All right,
No,
my
but
number 2. So it's actually 2 albums because one was the end of his career and the other was the end of his one album with his brother. And it could only happen because, you know, you're in the moment. You're a blues rock god. You are considered the greatest guitarist alive at the moment, and everyone will flock and go to you. And hell, you were just amazing. And you say, hey, well, let's get a helicopter ride. Why not, right? And Eric Clapton was going to jump in the helicopter too. He did, so he's still with us. But unfortunately, Stevie Ray Vaughan is not. And Stevie Ray Vaughan's final album is In Step. But with his brother, you also had Family Style. So you got this fun loving blues.
Yeah.
And then you had the In Step where the houses are rocking, and that's it. That's all I needed. I mean, that's how you start an album. The houses are rocking. That's it. The rest of the album's rocking too. And Stevie's doing what Stevie does and not, placating anything, just letting it all hang out. Obviously he didn't know that was going to be the end, but by God, it's the end, my friend. That's a beautiful end. Not to quote Jim Morrison, but those 2 albums kind of go hand in foot.
I like it. That's cool.
Those are my number 2. Jeff.
I also had Synchronicity, but I was just looking up because you were asking, and so it was actually 16 years ago. It was their 2007-2008 reunion tour, and they played 18 songs, which is part of 2 encores. But it was great. Bring on the Night, Demolition Man, Walking on the Moon, Voices, a couple of medleys. Don't Stand So Close to Me, Driven to Tears, Hole in My Life, Every Little Thing It Does, Wrapped Around Your Finger, Doo-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Da-Di-Da, and then Message in a Bottle, Invisible Sun, Can't Stand Losing You, Roxanne, King of Pain, So Lonely, Every Breath You Take, and Next to You. So yeah, it was
well, they ended with Next to You.
Yeah,
the last song.
Yeah, they said it's under setlist.fm. It's listed as the second encore.
Okay, I just wonder what does the Police close with, right? Okay. Interesting.
That's funny. Love it.
I guess that well, we've talked about Synchronicity, so yeah. Deb, you're number 1.
Well, I was going to choose this album out of spite to you, but I'm going to put Electric Ladyland and Jimi Hendrix Experience on the side. I'm not using that one. That's not my number 1 because I would not be true to myself and to my future husband if I didn't pick.
I was wondering when we were going to get there.
Led Zeppelin's Into the Outdoor, 1979. Oh my gosh, this album, I was just so excited to go see Zeppelin in concert, and it was a defining moment for me in a lot of ways. And so I'm not a big Dave Matthews fan. However, I saw him live last year and they did a montage of Zeppelin songs in a Dave fashion.
Okay.
And ended with Fool in the Rain. And if you can just picture Dave Matthews Band doing a Zeppelin song, that's the song
Dun, dun,
they
dun,
should
dun, dun.
do. It's just unreal. And it was just so, and we're at this outdoor concert, and as soon as that song started, it started pouring rain, and it was just amazing. And I'm like, Zeppelin just keeps giving and giving and giving. So that's my number one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, on that side of things, like Electric Ladyland, it's a partial, not complete album, right? Am I wrong in that? It's not all originals. There's other things thrown in there.
Oh yeah, well it's not, no, because
Because Coda would be the same
all
way.
along the Watchtower is a Dylan song.
Yeah, but I mean, I like Coda. Like Coda comes
Oh
after, right? And Coda has mixes of stuff,
yeah,
you know. So yeah,
no,
that
that's
Electric Ladyland gets mentioned a lot, and I'm always like,
yeah.
it's not a complete studio album. It's got live stuff. It's got.
I guess I didn't realize that. Well, I'm glad I threw that away.
It's not thrown away. I mean, it is the last time you're at Hendrix, right? Besides all the live stuff that they keep finding, like in somebody's
Yeah,
basement somewhere, you know, they come.
yeah, really.
Yeah, cool. I thought Led Zeppelin. When you said I'm gonna what? Led Zeppelin, even if it's Coda. All right. Dude, what's your number one? I can't even imagine.
Well,
Drum roll.
it's kind of a trio
Okay.
because this band produced two albums almost simultaneously, Dylan and the Dead and Built to Last. Without a Net was released a year after, but was done a year before.
Yeah.
So this technically is their last studio album, and it's the Grateful Dead, Built to Last. It has mixed feelings with me. Jerry's voice was getting raspy at the time, or more raspy, I should say.
Yeah, more raspy, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was the kind of thing that his audience knew very much well that he was ailing. But he held on, and he got this album done. It is not my favorite album. Foolish Heart, Built to Last, Blown Away, Victim of the Crime. They're all good songs. But I think because of Jerry's problems with the coke and the speedballing, that his voice from this point on was never the same. It really wasn't. It's sad to talk about this one, but this is our last album.
Yeah. But you've got 732 live albums that you could listen
No,
to.
it's 850.
It's 850. Yeah. I would love to, if somebody's out there watching this program and I would love to have you on the show with the Grateful Dude to show your entire collection that you have everything. That would be astounding to me.
Wow.
It would really be something. And
that's a 12-hour show too.
We'll edit it to 6.5. You don't have to show me every one of them. All right. So when I was thinking about this, and there's so many, like, there are fantastic records. The number one final album of all time should be not an argument by any means by anybody. If it would stun me. If anybody in the music industry, I don't care whether you like hard rock, soft rock, classical, whatever, Simon and Garfunkel's record, Bridge Over Troubled Water, is the quintessential end that you could possibly have. So I stricken that from the record because that was just too easy. All right. And we mentioned it the other night. I decided that when I was going to do this, I thought, what is that final album that I listened to more than once a year? maybe twice, maybe 3 times, maybe 4. I guess I listened to it because it's shorter. I don't even know if it was meant to be an album. It seemed like the band actually had a problem and they weren't going to be together much longer. Now, Jeff Young and I went to see them, and they played in the Evening Side, I think it's called, their Evening Shade Theater, which is not a theater by any means. It's basically the Evening Star, right? Maybe?
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's a hole in the wall in Niagara Falls. How the band got there, I have no idea.
They came across the bridge.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Oh my God.
So heartbreaking for me because I love this band. I think they're one of Canada's best kept secrets. They never got their due even in Canada. They were still loved by the fans that loved them. And I think Greaves has one of the most hollow and interesting voices in alternative, next to maybe Ed Kowalczyk of Live. And this is the band, The Watchmen, and their final album, Slow Motion, which only features 8 tracks because the band couldn't put it together, apparently. It was basically produced by the guy who did Delirium. If you know who they are, it's kind of like a progressive kind of Depeche Mode. Then they would invite other singers to come on. I think Sarah McLachlan did a track and things like that. He also did Frontline Assembly, so very industrial. The album featured a lot of loop. And when Jeff and I went to the concert, some of the new tracks were being played, and we're like, wow, this is totally different because there's a lot of staccato and rhythm tracking going on. But what started it off, they did Silent Radar Stereo, was one of the, we'll call it remixes that was on the record as well. But Slow Motion, for me, had not only lyrics that mattered and were deep in how they normally do things, but it was a departure from their alternative stylings that they were a little bit harder than normal than most bands in that era. Probably in the idea of your Nirvana, their first record from the McLaren Furnace Room was very harsh, very rough, very raw. So I guess what makes me a join to this too is that I saw them live that time, but I also saw them play their final show in Buffalo after he sang the national anthem at the Sabres game. So we're all thinking,
Really?
wow, what he did. Yep, he sang the anthem, and he went across the street to I don't even remember what the club was called at the time. The Continental.
The Continental.
Yes, they
Yes,
played the
lots of
Continental.
punk bands would be there. Yeah.
And they got on stage and he goes, "This will be the last time we're going to play together." And it was the final night. He goes, "We're just going to sing or play until my voice gives out." And songs like "I Like It,"
Wow.
"Slow Motion," "Together," "Holiday," all those songs were played, and then of course all the hits and things that we all knew as fans. But so my number one is "Slow Motion." That CD
Very
one
cool.
it's called Fast Forward. It has it has the 8 songs, and then the 9th track is stereo remixed. And then they actually had a second CD where they put all the hits like Cracked, Running
Yeah, it's like a
High.
double album.
Yeah, so it was a double album in it.
What's
But
funny is
Cool.
like when I mentioned one thing I didn't mention was with that big wreck number 7 at 7.123. On 7.1, the song Fields, there's 2 backup singers. One of them is Daniel Greaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one is the guy Ian from Billy Talent.
yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and of course, that album ends and the double ends with Brighter Hell, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. Just a piano and an interesting dark lyric. But so that's mine.
Awesome.
I guess Mono mentions too.
Pardon?
Honorable mention.
I guess-
Oh, yes. Go ahead. Yeah, because I'd like to. Yeah, go ahead.
My first honorable mention was a fabulous band. I saw them 8-10 times. Creedence Clearwater's Revival, and the album is Mardi Gras. Queen, Made in Heaven.
Mhm.
Where's on my list? Thin Lucy, Thunder and Lightning.
It's 1983, something like that.
Exactly. Pink Moon. Um,
Was that Nick Drake?
and Nick Drake. Yep.
Okay.
And it was a great album. He didn't do much for me, but it was a great album. Black Star by David Bowie.
That's in a lot of lists for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my favorite albums and one of my favorite guitarists of all times, Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Experience Electric Ladybird. That's it.
Yeah. Deb, you have any?
No.
Mr. Young?
Not really. I came across one that I wasn't too familiar with, but I probably want to listen to it. Was I can't remember the name of it now. It was the last solo Dio album.
Oh.
A lot of comments on lists about how it was really underrated and maybe one of the better ones. I mean, he's got like 9 solo albums, so I it's easy to miss one, but
Well,
I think it's called Master of the Moon, something like that.
Master of the Moon?
Something like that.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it. I thought that, I don't know, if my wife was on, there might have been the mention of Tom Petty's Hypnotic Eye and the Heartbreakers. It's still a great, it's not Wildflowers or anything of that nature, but it's still that kind of record. But there's this band that I've always loved, and when they disbanded, Mark Lanigan wound up with a solo career, and he's a hot mess. Was a hot mess, with it's very dark. But his band was called the Screaming Trees, and their final albums were actually called Last Words, the final recordings. That is a fantastic last album of things put together, but that didn't happen until like 2011, which the band disbanded in the late 90s. Obviously, White Zombies, Astro Creep 2000 is a fine final record. The rest of the band wound up on a band, I think they're called Scum of the Earth, based on the song in there, part of the song. I also had Police, but Rage Against the Machine's Renegades, which is a covers record, is their final record. When you do Bob Dylan and you do it that way, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
They ain't gonna work on Maggie's Farm no more, baby. Ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and then I would put this one above the Led Zeppelin one. I love Page and Plant's Welcome to Walking into Clarksdale.
Great,
that's
great record.
Yeah.
A lot of
all right, I'll give you that. I won't
give me
fight
that
you
one?
on that. Okay, you're
And
you're
isn't
good.
it funny that you would sit down with, like I said, Madonna at the beginning, right? I'm going to say another artist who can't be on this list is Prince. The last
Right.
albums, which were part 1 and part 2, I went back and listened to. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I missed something. Nope. You're going to have to go back and listen to the catalog.
Yep, you're
So
right.
what did we miss? What were your albums, your last albums that you love to listen to? Obviously, there's no wrong answers. Alex isn't here. Please hit the like button if it's the last thing you do. This could be the last worthless evening that you'll have to spend, as long as you subscribe to the channel. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com. I'll apologize for myself now. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, articles, videos, that podcast. I'll apologize for myself again there. Catch Deb and myself this Saturday for Album Review Saturday. There's some more burners coming, man. There's great albums. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Thanks for watching and happy listening.